All right, hello, DJ Football here. Welcome to another series from our overview and our tips to how to dominate in your fantasy league. Let's make sure we give you some awesome tips today to help you really win. Right now, we're going to talk about draft day. Oh my gosh, one of the most fun days of the whole year. This is second to Christmas morning. One of my all-time favorite things to do here is have drafts. And what I love to have draft with my leagues all together. So I invite everyone over to my house. We have a party, throw a big tailgate party, barbecue it up, and have a great time doing our draft with everyone there. Gives you an opportunity to razz your fellow league mates and to really just enjoy the process. What this also does is it invests the players into their teams, which once you're invested, you play more. You're more accountable to that team, and it's just a whole lot more fun. I recommend having live draft parties. That's my personal opinion, but they all work. You can do drafts offline to where you're drafting with someone writing all the information down, and then you go post it online, or you can do it automated by the online system, and it will walk you through that as well. Both of them awesome live. Excellent. Let's talk about what do you do on draft day? What do you do? You're here, you've prepped, you've gone through, you've watched all the videos of all these players, you understand how they think, how they play, why they're there, what are they paid. You've seen them through training camp, through preseason. You've been, super excited. Oh no, this guy's now injured. You've got rookies. What do we do with the rookies? You've prepped yourself. You're ready to dominate. What do you need to know? So, first of all, there's a big piece called handcuffs. When it comes to drafting. You'll hear this term a lot. A lot of people recommend if you pick up, what it means, a lot of people recommend if you pick up a dominant running back or really a running back, that's really a quarterback can fall in there as well, but usually it's running back position. You pick up the team's main running back. What if he gets injured? Then you want to make sure you've got the secondary guy because now he's going to get all the feeds. I don't agree with that standpoint at all. Really, the only time I think you should ever have a handcuff that you're picking up with a main all-star player is if that individual is injury prone. If you've got a guy who tears his ACL every year or is coming off a serious injury and he really is your number one pick, okay, maybe take a handcuff. But you've only got a limited number of positions on your roster. Why waste it with a guy who's probably never going to play? And so that's my opinion. You've got enough great options this year to fill your whole roster with fantastic starters. Why fill it with someone who's probably going to sit on your bench? That might come back and bite you when your all-star tears his ACL or something. But ultimately, all in all, I've won a lot of leagues. I really don't think handcuffs are necessary. Just giving you some information there. Hopefully that's helpful. All right, secondly, more teams, more points. When you draft, make sure that your personal bias about your favorite team. I'm from Seattle. I love the Seattle Seahawks. Man, they're awesome. I rarely draft more than one Seahawk every year. My rule of thumb, do not draft more than one all-star on a team. The only exception is if you're taking the quarterback and another position. If you're taking the quarterback, another position is acceptable because the quarterback's involved in every play, and if he throws the ball to your wide receiver, your tight end, or your running back, you get double points. The difficulty here is, and that's still, I would recommend, the best case scenario, your entire roster is from different teams. And here's why. Every game, there's a limited number of points. Even if the game is 50-50 and there's a lot of points scored, in that one game, all those points are divvied out among the entire team. And so if I have three players on that same team, like let's take Green Bay, for example, because they have a lot of all-stars. You got Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson, and this year you've got Ty Montgomery as their running back, right? You take these three all-stars or Martellus Bennett. You take these 3 or 4 all-stars. If you pick up all of them, sure, you're going to pick up all the points they play every game. But if you were to spread that out, you've now, let's use 50 as a number. It's a massive number, but let's use it. If there's 50 points in all 4 of the games from different players on different teams, your player has an opportunity to get all of those 50 points. All 4 of your players can pick up all of those points. So it gives you a much larger range of points to achieve. Again, if you're going to pick up more than 1, 2 is absolute maximum. I'd still recommend you stick to 1 player from each team. The kicker really doesn't matter. You can pick up a kicker from any team. I would recommend the kicker comes from a team that scores a lot of points. So you get teams like the Atlanta Falcons, the Green Bay Packers, the New England Patriots. Those kickers are super valuable because the more points the team scores, the more points your kicker gets as well. So there's a tip about who to pick up and what to watch for. Secondly, when you're drafting, be aware of suspensions and injuries that are going on throughout the season, the previous season and preseason. So if you've got a guy who, for example, a little tip, this year Doug Martin is suspended. He's the running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's their starting running back. He's suspended for the first 3 games of the season, this coming up season. If you pick him up, now knowing that, you can't play him the first 3 games, and now you're sitting there going, shoot, now I got to play some scrub I didn't know I had to play because I didn't realize Doug Martin was out for 3 weeks. 3 weeks can make or break your season. So if you go on the internet, Google suspended players for 2018 or 2017, then you'll get a list of the suspension report, who's suspended for how long, so that you can make sure you're making intelligent decisions. It's not always bad to pick up a suspended player, but just know it lowers their value on your rank list, so you're picking them up later and not earlier. Last year was a big deal with Tom Brady and Le'Veon Bell. This year you don't have any huge all-stars other than Doug Martin and a couple others who may have some impact, but make sure you're aware of that. Also, know injuries. Make sure you know the injuries. If there's a player coming off a massive injury, they may be a little slow starting out, or their coach may cut back the workload he's giving them to make sure they don't re-injure that injury. Also, lots of injuries can happen during preseason, training camp and preseason games. So make sure you're aware of what injuries are going on so that when you draft, you're not picking up players who won't play or who are going to be limited in their playing. That's super important. Again, Google, awesome resource. Usually NFL, Yahoo, and ESPN all have that information as well. You just got to kind of go looking for it. So those are super good tips to make sure you're drafting by. Also, when you're actually going through the draft, make sure you're aware of their bye weeks. So next to each player, it will show what week that they have off. Now, I'm not terribly worried about that during the draft. If I have 2 of my All-Stars with bye weeks, like say week 9, I get 2 All-Stars who have bye weeks, yeah, that's unfortunate, but it probably won't break me as long as I have a good draft. Now, I've also had some mock drafts where by the end I realized I got 4 starters on bye week in week 9. Like, that's nuts. Had I realized that during the draft, I probably would have chosen someone else that was comparable in skill level right around him who had a different bye week, so that during that week, I'm not just throwing it away saying, I guess I'm not going to win week 9 because my whole entire starting roster is off that week, right? So let me explain bye weeks a little bit better. Every season, there are 17 weeks in the season, but every team gets 1 week off. And so every team will have a week that they call bye weeks where they don't play. So that's a big deal. And so make sure that you're aware of that. I wouldn't base your whole draft around bye weeks. I'd still pick your best players, but I would limit your bye weeks or players per bye week by 2. So if you've got 2 players on a certain bye week, 2 of your starters, I'd make sure that you try to avoid picking up another starter unless they are just a rock star. Avoid picking up another so that you're not throwing away that week and hoping that your scrubs or guys on the waiver wire are going to pull off all-star numbers for you. All right, and then last but not least, draft tiers. Make sure that you've got if you're getting into it and you want to do a little bit more research, you've got your own spreadsheet of where you've ranked these players, so that come the draft, you're not having to base your rankings off of the source's rankings, because sometimes those don't go according to what you think. So I would recommend that you have at least your first 5 or 6 rounds of your draft ranked out so that your tiers are all set up and so that you can make educated decisions. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to watch the next video. We're going to talk about trades and waivers. Super important. Super excited to share this with you. Have a great day, and you're going to win your fantasy league. Thanks so much.